Working with DIY investors on the path to and through retirement, here are three of the most common yet complex questions that I hear. How should I turn my investment portfolio into retirement income? In which order should I distribute that income from my various accounts? And how do I set up a cash flow system to ensure I have the money in my checking account when I need it? Turning assets into income when you switch from the accumulation phase to the retirement distribution phase can be very difficult from both quantitative and qualitative perspectives. We are often taught how to save and invest, but not how to spend. These next lessons will help to answer those questions by developing a retirement distribution order of operations and a retirement spending plan. Before we get into the details of an example retirement distribution strategy, let's briefly explore some of the common methods retirees and financial advisors use, including their respective advantages and disadvantages. The first I'll share is a systematic withdrawal strategy utilizing what's called a total return approach. This means withdrawing income as a fixed amount or percentage of an investment portfolio at regular intervals, often monthly, semi-annually, or annually. And the total return approach involves maintaining a diversified asset allocation between equity and fixed income, and periodically selling a portion of the portfolio, sometimes both principal and earnings, to supplement income needs. As income is distributed, the investments are dynamically rebalanced to maintain the desired asset allocation. Retirees, and sometimes their advisor, monitor their portfolio and adjust withdrawal amounts as needed based on changing income needs and long-term sustainability. There are many decades of information and research available showing which asset allocations and safe withdrawal rates have historically supported decades of retirement income distributions. With that said, using this simplified, rational approach often causes retirees to become overly anxious about investment performance, especially during market downturns, ruminating and catastrophizing on what-if scenarios regarding running out of money. Regardless of what the historical math says and how many commas are in someone's portfolio balance, financial behavior cannot be changed with data alone. This concept reminds me of Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest investors in the world, but yet, when he goes to the McDonald's drive-thru, he bases his breakfast order on whether the stock market is up or down that morning. All of us make irrational financial decisions, regardless of how knowledgeable or wealthy we are, and naturally, we focus on short-term benefits without recognizing long-term consequences in our own best interest. The second approach I'll mention is called the bucket strategy. This involves dividing the investment portfolio into different buckets based on time horizon, meaning when the funds are expected to meet the retirement income needs, just like we've talked about giving every dollar a use-by date. The first bucket may hold cash equivalents and short-duration bonds to provide short-term stability for income needs within the next 3 years, specifically avoiding stock market risk. For intermediate income needs, such as between 4 and 10 years, longer duration bonds or conservatively balanced portfolios can provide additional growth in income. And for long-term income needs exceeding 10 years, higher equity allocations provide more aggressive growth, also hedging against the impact of future inflation, since retirement may last multiple decades. These time-segmented buckets are dynamically rebalanced to replenish each other, usually annually. For example, after 1 year, the short-term bucket, number 1, only has 2 years of income remaining, so funds from the intermediate-term bucket, number 2, can fill bucket 1 back up to the 3 years of income, and so on. Some retirees prefer a 2-bucket approach instead, meaning a short-term bucket with maybe a few more years of income, and a long-term bucket focused on equity growth. You can think of this like a barbell, short-term and long-term. Although the bucket strategy is easy to conceptualize, it may not be the most optimal in terms of market performance, since it carves out a portion of the portfolio for short-term liquidity over growth and income. But it can provide investors with a sense of security, knowing that when the stock market takes a hit, it's not affecting the portion of their portfolio that's supporting their short-term living expenses. Maybe Warren Buffett would choose his favorite McDonald's meal every time using this approach. Retirees are less likely to make impulsive budget-cutting decisions when they have a short-term pillow to help them sleep better. However, I should acknowledge that the bucket strategy alone will not change behavior. Ongoing education and kind nudging may be required to adhere to its intentional purpose, and of course its ongoing implementation with rebalancing. Although there are numerous others, the third and final approach that I'll mention is the income floor strategy. Retirees seek to cover their essential non-discretionary expenses, the income floor, with guaranteed income sources such as Social Security, pensions, and annuities. Once those are covered, the remaining investment portfolio supports variable, discretionary expenses, such as entertainment and travel. This provides comfort that basic needs such as food, housing, insurance, personal care, and transportation will be covered every month, regardless of stock and bond market performance. You could think of this as a needs and wants strategy, or a must have versus nice to have approach. The income floor strategy may provide the greatest sense of financial security with guaranteed income sources, but it also involves opportunity cost. With a lack of liquidity, retirees who purchase annuities may need to accept a lower standard of living when it comes to their discretionary expenses if their remaining portfolio and market returns are insufficient to cover them. Also, the guaranteed recurring income may not keep pace with inflation. If you consider buying annuities to support your retirement income needs, please review your anticipated expenses carefully. It does not have to be an all or nothing approach. And also, be careful when discussing your annuity considerations with someone who is compensated based on how much money you put into the product, or how much money you don't put into the product. Otherwise, it may feel like going to a Ford dealership and asking if you should buy a new car. Absolutely, and we recommend a Ford. In all seriousness, annuities can be an appropriate retirement planning tool, and I've linked some additional resources below, including information about single premium immediate annuities, one of the purest forms used to support a guaranteed retirement income floor. So how do you decide between these options, or numerous others I didn't even mention? The right distribution plan for you comes down to personal preferences, including your tolerance for risk and complexity, plus a whole list of unique variables we've covered throughout this course. Current and future sources of income and expenses, the total investment portfolio, and its split between asset location, life expectancy, estate planning legacy preferences, risk tolerance, tax implications, and assumed investment and inflation rates. Without reviewing these areas, the answers to your financial questions will always be "it depends." Although each person has a different comprehensive financial situation, I will show you an example of how the bucket strategy might be implemented in the following lesson.